Well, guess what? If you're retired, all you got to do is prove you're retired. You don't got to prove financial solvency.
You will not get permanent unless you have the retirement age from your country and are receiving a pension.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very special guest with us, Mariana. Mariana, how about you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Mariana Rodriguez. I am the founder and the main attorney of Max Life Yucatan. Here we have our base in Mérida, Yucatan, and also we work between here and Cozumel. We've been doing immigration and real estate law for about 5 years, and we always get daily questions about, how can I become a resident? I want to move to Mexico. How can I get it done legally?
Awesome.
Yeah, very cool. The primary part of your business is focusing on immigration.
Yes, we could say that now it's 50-50. So 50% is immigration completely, and also the other 50% would be real estate. Not the looking for properties, but the legal part of it to make sure that you can buy as a foreigner.
How many years have you personally been an immigration lawyer?
Okay, well, actually, the story started when I was in university. So I did not know what I wanted to go with law. And I decided that I would work for some time in immigration. This is something that we do in our country that we give back to the government. So I worked for free and I really liked it. I really liked traveling. So at some point, I loved hearing the stories of how people felt moving to another country, all their ideas, and how I could help them to make that real. And so that was in 2017, 2018. And then starting there, from that I graduated, I started with Max Life Yucatan. So it's been almost this year, 5 years that I've done immigration law. Real estate law, I used to do also a little bit before I finished university. So now also about 5 years, especially doing trusts for foreigners, which is a way that they can buy here in Mexico.
Wow, that's awesome. So there's a lot of people that want to know how can they get, we'll start with temporary residency. How does one get temporary residency?
Between people, because the webpage of the consulates, many times they're not updated first. They're very to the point, like you need this amount and this amount, but how do I get there? What do I need to show? And many times we've had with clients that maybe they think, oh, I get this amount every month, maybe out of rent from my house. That doesn't work for the consulate. They have very strict ways of thinking, especially even for digital nomads that work on their own. There's very strict rules of how you can get it. But the main one is financial solvency, either saving, investments, or having work that gives you a monthly income.
Gotcha. And with the savings and investments, I think you have to prove that you've had a certain amount over a period of time. Is that correct?
Exactly. So the rule is with savings and investments, you have to prove it for 12 months before your appointment. And super important, it has to be an ending balance. A lot of people tell me, oh, well, I've had it as an average, but maybe in the past 12 months, in May, I missed it. It doesn't work out. You have to have it for the 12 months, and preferably you have to use a bank or an investment company that can give you originals or bank stamps, which show that those bank statements are original per se.
Okay.
And speaking of financial solvency, I know it varies depending on consulates, but could you give us like a range for everybody watching? The most they have to have, the least to qualify?
Yeah, of course. So this actually is something that I do like to explain to my clients during the consulting, is that these amounts change year by year. So it's very important that if you feel like you're eligible right now, that you just go for it, because this amounts will go up next year. So you either have to work on next year's or go for it now. So I always like to use a consulate that I like a lot, just because of their service, which is Las Vegas. And I use it really like a standard. Why? Because it's a consulate that normally asks for a little bit more than other consulates, but also they always update their webpage always on time. So I really like to use it for a purpose of checking the amounts. So for example, for this year, specifically for the temporary, you need either or. Remember, either or.
Okay.
So investment or savings that are more than 52K, or having income from work that gives you at least 3K $3,100 US per month. And this is also after taxes, super important.
Gotcha.
So could someone that doesn't have that much money, could they say, I'm going to sell things in my house to get that money?
Yeah,
Yeah, you could.
yeah, definitely. So talking about all those things during the consulting, we normally do find people that say, okay, I don't have any of those. I'm not married to anybody that is Mexican. I don't have Mexican children. So what do? We try to create strategy A, B, C, D, all the way, right? So the first one would be ideal. You have the amount, you have the income, but what happens if you don't? So one of the ways and things that work out for clients is that they want to move to Mexico, right? So maybe they sell their house there and they get this big amount, and we tell them, okay, with whatever is left, try to maybe buy something in Mexico because it tends to be cheaper depending on when you buy, where you buy. And then whatever's left, leave it in the bank or in the investment account for a year, and then go back and do the residency. Once you've done the residency and you proved it, you can go and spend the money. They're not going to be checking if you still have it while you're a resident. It's only for the purpose of proving, because what immigration wants to know is that you're going to be able to support yourself in Mexico, either by work or by savings. So it works kind of similar if you do it by selling stuff. Of course, I don't know like how many things you would have to sell, right? But maybe you do sell something that is, gets the amount, but you do have to keep it in the bank for a year.
Right.
So it is possible. It is one of the strategies that we use for our clients. And specifically, if, for example, it happens a lot where there's a family and maybe they have minor children, the parents are fine, they get the residency, but they have an adult child of 19. So when a child is older than 18, they have to prove it on their own. So what we tell parents is maybe you could put in an account under their name that amount, and then after some time, they can gain the residency as well.
That's good to know.
And I do want to make a little asterisk and say that there are other ways at the consulate, but we would need days to talk about it. So of course, during the consulting, we can analyze it, but talking specifically about savings and investments and digital nomads. Normally, digital nomads work on their own. And many times the companies, and this is not 100%, but many times the companies that they work for don't give them payrolls. They're not really registered as a worker from them, just as someone giving a service. So in those cases, the best way would be doing savings or investments. We always try to suggest for people to do that, because when you want to do it with a monthly income, normally the consulate does ask you to prove employers. So maybe letter from the company or payroll, pay stubs. And most people that work on their own, like I work on my own, a lot of people that move here work on their own, cannot provide that because they just provide a service to somebody else. And for some reason, the consulates have not yet understood the idea that someone can work from afar and still earn enough money to live on their own. They have not understood that. So for them, because in a temporary residency, you're not allowed to work, this space to work,
right?
Then practically they're thinking, okay, how are they going to survive? How are they going to survive there? And so the savings and investments is the way for them to understand, okay, they will have something there in their bank. So that is why the most that we've seen is through savings and investments. And again, later on, the person can use it as they want, and that's it.
And depending on the consulate you go to, the income requirements might be different. So if you were to go to Texas, if you were to go to Las Vegas, depending on what state, those income requirements might be different. And let's say you made 11 months out of the previous year, you made the amount that that consulate wanted you to make. But that 1 month you made below, maybe they would deny you for that. Could that be possible?
Yeah, of course. It has to be the 12 months, the ending balance for the 12 months. And what we do tell our clients is to maybe make some movements in the account, but to keep more than the minimum amount so that there's no problem. And also what we do during the consulting is not all the consulates, but some of the consulates do let you, for example, I don't know, I'm from Los Angeles, but I can go to Vegas. or I'm from Miami, but I can go to Texas. But not all of them do. So through years, we've been able to figure out how each consulate works and which one at the moment is the fastest, so that we can work with our clients' timings per se. If maybe this, okay, I need to move now. Okay, this one is the fastest and it allows you to go, and maybe it doesn't ask you for a letter from an employer, just pay stubs. Or, oh, this one, you need everything. Or this one, maybe the amount is a little bit lower. So we try to work out in that way so that for the clients is a little bit better.
Wow.
That's really great.
That is fantastic. So you actually keep records of this stuff, like to make your client's life easier. I mean, that's what you're looking to do. That's incredible.
Wow.
Excellent.
So before we move on to permanent residency, just to summarize, if someone says, okay, I want to get temporary residency, I want to move to Mexico, I don't have a family unit, a relationship, anything in Mexico, I need to go through financial solvency, I need to make an appointment at the INM in the United States. What do they, if there's like a checklist, what do they need to bring with them to their appointment?
That's a great question. So first of all, make sure you have a valid passport. Sometimes when we have the consulting, the clients say, oh no, mine is, in 2 months it's going to expire. No, make sure you have a valid passport of at least more than 6 months, preferably more if possible. You also need to show a one passport size photograph. You also need to fill a format that is given in their online webpage, where they ask you where you plan on living, when are you coming into the country, what supporting documents you're going to provide to prove the solvency, and also personal information. And then the main part of it would be deciding what you're going to use. So if you're going to use investments or savings, 12 months from the appointment back of the investment. If you can get originals, better. If not, stamped by the bank or the investment company with a letter coming along with it, or showing your monthly income from work with a letter from the employer stating that he will let you or allow you to work from afar, and also your pay stubs from the past 6 months. So super important. In regards to work, it's only 6 months back from the appointment. When it's investment or savings, it's 12 months back from the day of the appointment.
The company that I was using only provided quarterly statements. Is that something that could be an issue? And if so, how have you, in your experience, maybe got around that?
Actually, I think in the past year, we got more experience with that because we got more and more clients that wanted to do it through investments. And also sometimes with bank statements, if you don't have any movements, they don't give you a statement, which for me was like, oh no, how is the consulate going to accept this? Because in reality, just for everyone to know, in the law, they don't say like it has to be stamped by the bank original. That's kind of like an extra that the consulate wants you to have. So they can always make your life more difficult if they want it. So what we've been trying to do is kind of finding out what each consulate wants and would accept in regards to that. And some of our clients, what they've done is they've printed the statements that they could, whatever it was, quarterly, maybe every 6 months, whatever. And then they got a letter from the bank or company stating, okay, this person, full name as in passport, has had in the account this much as an average. So if you get that, there's a bigger possibility that they will accept it. This is not 100% ever, depending on the consulate. But we've seen that the consulate has been able to understand that, because we do hope that at some point this becomes paperless, but at this moment, it won't. So the more that you can get, the better. And some consulates that we've dealt with have had no problem with it. Also, we just had an experience with a client. This was in Canada and around Toronto area. And she went directly to the company, investment company, and said, please, like, I really need this for my residency. And normally they don't do it, but they were so nice to her that they said, yes, we'll help you. So, I mean, the consulate was willing to do it with the letter, but she was able to get it. So many times I tell my clients, give it a try. Call your bank, explain the situation, or your investment company, and you might be able to get it. But we are seeing that the consulates have been a little bit more understanding with that fact, because it has happened to a lot of people, of course.
Wow.
How often do you have to renew your temporary residency?
So in reality, to be able to reach permanent, you should have, and again, this depends on the case, but normally you should have it for 4 years.
Okay.
Now, Also, depending on the office, and a reason why I like Yucatan so much to be able to gain the residency is that Yucatan, the first year, you only get one. You come from the States, you exchange your visa to your residency card, you get 1 year. And then you have 3 years left, right? To be able to get to permanent. In Yucatan, they let you renew those 3 years in advance. So you
Mm.
come next year and you renew it in advance. There are other offices in other states, for example, where I work in Cozumel, that is year by year by year. So there's no way of doing it like in advance. Plus, when you do it in advance, there's also quite, I would say, quite some discount in doing it in advance. For example, at this year, and again, these amounts also go up every year. So I mean, you will pay more later, but pretty much 3 years is about 9,000 pesos. So like maybe like $500 if you do 20 exchange rate. But if you do year by year, right now 1 year is about 300. So like it is a big discount that you're able to do it in advance. So a lot of people come and do it here, and then they roam around and move somewhere else once they've done their 3 year renewal.
Now, for example, we have to renew our temporary residency actually next month. Do you have to bring your financial paperwork again, or what do you have? How does
No,
that
not really. So the financials, whatever you proved it with, specifically financial, you proved it already.
Okay.
Now, your obligation as a resident is to renew it in time and form. If you were not to renew it in time and form, or you lost the residency, then you would have to start again, prove the financials again at the consulate. But at this point, you've already proved it. So like I said before, you can use that money as you would like. They're not going to ask you for those financials, even when you're going to move to permanent. It's through time. It's because of time that you're renewing.
We've heard from a couple of people online, and of course you hear things, but we actually know a couple who was forced to re-show, maybe not forced, but is it possible that the immigration office you go to could possibly ask you again, hey, even though it's not in the law, we would like to see the paperwork again. Just show us that you have something in the bank. Is it possible that this would happen? Because we've heard from, at least I've heard from a couple of people that we physically know that they had to go through it. Have you heard of that?
Actually, I've never heard of that,
Okay.
and it's not needed. I would
Okay.
say that that's kind of just their way of trying to make trouble,
Right.
because even the same name of the paperwork is renewal. Uh, you're renewing a document. You're
Right.
not proving anything. You're just
Right.
renewing an existing document. So I mean, I would say the thing is here, the agent does have kind of the authority to make sure that things are legal. So I would say that maybe if they saw something fake,
Uh,
it happens that they would be like, please show me this or that or your documents again. But honestly, it's never happened to us. I've actually never heard it from colleagues here in Merida. It's not a usual thing, and they shouldn't do it, but maybe it would be good to always, again, nicely as the officer, I know that this is not needed.
right.
Why am I being requested this again?
Right.
But it's not really something needed. Of course, it would be good that you have something in your bank account, but you won't have to have 60K or 70K in just something to show that you can live here with.
Right. And that's something that you, for example, would take care of. If a
Mhm.
client came to you, you would actually be able to tell them, well, this isn't necessary.
Yes, definitely. So sometimes here in Merida, well, I think this happens in every office, and I think no foreigner that's now a resident will let me lie, in that they make you go 3, 4 times, and I don't like this letter. Oh, you're missing this copy. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
So we make sure that you don't have to do that. If they already know us, so like once they see that you're represented, they might not even say anything to you because they know that the person who's helping you knows what they're doing. So if there's something like a little problem, which sometimes we have once in a while, they do let us go in. They actually go and search for us. We go in and we explain, okay, this person doesn't have this because of this. Oh, hey, notice you didn't see it. It's right here. And then they're like, okay, sorry. And that's it.
Right.
So
Okay.
during the pandemic, they weren't letting us in as much because, of course, COVID reasons. Now they are letting us in if we want to. Many times our clients are ready, so they just give the whole file and the person does their job. But if they have any question, they see who we are, so they go out. and they call us, and my assistant explains something if she needs to, but it's not very usual. But so we can represent you all the way, of course.
So working when a client has representation like yours, it's actually feasible that the process is going to go smoother and quicker because you guys already know the offices and the people there. So they're going to see you, they're going to say, all right, this is legitimate. We don't have to worry as much. Maybe we push it through. Whereas if it was just a solo person, it might be a lot harder. Maybe you need two more copies of this piece of paper. Maybe you didn't sign it properly and they didn't like your handwriting, and now you have to redo something.
Exactly. And I mean, there's little things I will just mention too. For example, the official ink of immigration is blue. If you use blue to fill your documents, they won't like it.
Wow.
They won't like it, at least here in the South. And I will tell you, just like in the consulates, there are offices that are different. We work again between Yucatan and Quintana Roo, and in Cozumel, they ask for way more things than in Merida. Way more. So what we try to tell our clients is, if you go with us, you're totally capable of doing it on your own. You will go maybe 4 or 5 times, but you'll get it done. But if you do it through us, my job is to make sure you only get there, present everything, and go out with your card. Like, you don't have to worry about I missed this paper, or I missed this payment, or something like that. Or, I was incorrect. There's a letter that's incorrect. Because all those things, they will tell you, come back. Like, they won't wait for you.
Right.
So they said, come back another day, and there's a day wasted. So yeah, we do help with that.
That's excellent. What about as far as bank accounts? Are you able to help people get bank accounts once they become temporary?
So that's a great question. When we started with Max Life, just I think like with any business, we wanted to do everything. We wanted to do everything that a client would need at the point of moving. Of course, with time, you kind of understand that you want to give your clients the best service, so you need to delegate. And so what we've created now is pretty much a relationship with business partners that we trust, that work with us, and that can help you in things that maybe we cannot because of time. So for example, when someone comes in through Max Life Yucatan, we help them with the residency. When they get the residency, we have someone that can help them get their tax ID number in Mexico, which is their RFC, which is an accountant. We also have a real estate agency to help them find a house according to their needs. We have an insurance company that can help them get insurance for house, car, personal insurance. We have a management company, a cleaning company, Spanish lesson company.
Wow.
So pretty much speaking, we cannot do all of that. We cannot maybe go to the bank with you and get it, but we can provide someone that we trust that can do it for you and that can do it right. Sometimes we've had to, explain how the client likes things done, because many clients tell us directly. And I like that. I like doing this way. I don't want to be bothered just with the necessary. And so we kind of give that understanding or information to the people so that they can work just like us with them. So,
Right.
So to answer your question, we can help, maybe not us personally. We do other things. We do the car process and etc. But maybe if there's something that we cannot do, we'll provide a business partner that can.
Not only are they getting represented in terms of the consulate, but they're also getting the trusted people that you've worked with, you've vetted, and people can be assured that they're going to get quality service even past the immigration point. That's very, very valuable. So something that I just want to throw out there to the audience, and something that Brittany and I actually did when we went, was we were very, very nice. Very, very nice. Be polite, be kind, don't be rude to the people who you're asking for favors, because as it was just mentioned by Mariana, they literally they make up the rules as they go. They have an outline, but they can ask for more. So if you make their life difficult, they might make your life difficult too. So be very nice and understand that everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different. And that's why a company like Max Life is so valuable, because they can help you step by step. You don't have to worry about all the ins and outs on your own.
I will be honest with you, and this is specifically important in the Mexican side. The agents in the Mexican side, I worked there for a while. I didn't get paid, of course, because it was a social service, but pretty much they don't get paid a lot. Right. So if you're rude to them, apart from that, and then, they try to make things difficult for you, it's expected. Like they don't get paid close to what they should. So
Right.
if you are nice to them, they are very nice. And of course, they'll try to help you out. When they see that you really need it, you really want it, and you're nice, they might be able to even say, oh, no worries. We'll just accept it like that. Because again, it's not illegal. It's
Right.
just a little pet peeve that they might have. So just being aware of that.
So something I wanted to ask you is we have people who are watching from different countries. So are the requirements and the things that we mentioned only for Americans? I know you mentioned someone from Canada. Is it the same? Like if you're from Europe, the requirements, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So mostly speaking is the same. If you're talking about financials, or even like I said, mentioned before, there are other ways. The rules are pretty much the same for financial solvency, in United States, South America, Canada, Europe. There's not really a big difference. What you will notice is that when you go to the consulate page, it gives you, for example, you're in Europe, it gives you in euros. Not really, they don't change that much because again, they're all based on Mexico's minimum wage.
Ah,
Literally in the law, it tells you for temporary residency, you need the minimum wage multiplied by this. So there are changes because depending on when the consulates do the exchange rate, that can change. But
ah,
in reality, they're pretty much the same. What is different, and I do want to make this note, is that some countries require even a tourist visa to enter Mexico. One of them is like Venezuela. Most countries in Africa need that tourist visa to enter Mexico. So in that case, normally the consulate will let you know if you need a visa or not to enter, and what you need to do to be able to obtain it, apart from residency. This is just the tourist visa. But mostly Europe, United States, and Canada have no problem with that.
gotcha. That's definitely something that's good to know.
Let's move on to permanent residency. How is that different than temporary and how are the requirements different?
Perfect. So when I started consulting with my clients, I always like to start by explaining the differences and also what you can do with one or the other. So in reality, briefly, both types of residents let you stay in the country for long term. Of course, one of them, which is temporary, you need to renew, but pretty much you can stay here long term. There's multiple in and out. You don't have to be in the country for a certain time, whatever, no problem. You can, with both of them, have a vehicle, Mexican vehicle, under your name here in Mexico, which is a plus for a lot of people that are as tourists because they want to be able to move with a vehicle. And with both of them, you might be able to exempt the sales tax in the future if you decide to sell your property in Mexico, as well as open bank accounts. Some banks ask you for permanent, some banks are okay with temporary. That depends on their policy. So pretty much they're both really good. So I always tell my clients, if you cannot do permanent now, don't worry. Actually, you will get there because temporary being renewed in the right time and form moves to permanent. There's
Ah,
no other way. Okay, so even if you don't get permanent at first, it's fine. Do your renewals with time and you will get to permanent. Okay, so that's pretty much starting with they're both really good. Now, how do I get permanent straight away? We also have to divide this in two, Mexico and the consulates. In Mexico, pretty much it's through family unit. That's the only way. You have Mexican children, you get straight permanent, or you're a minor and your parents are permanent. You get straight permanent. All the other types of family unit have to go through temporary first, and then they move to permanent. Okay. Also, if you're a permanent here and you want to bring your parents, they also get permanent.
ah,
So it's kind of a straight line that you can get permanent. What happens now at the consulate? And this is something that always I get clients that tell me, I have enough funds for permanent because start with, you do have to prove way more investment, savings, or income and pension to be able to apply for permanent. And they tell me, I have enough. I have 300K in my account. I want permanent. Well, there's a little tricky thing there. And this is in the law. This is something that is in the law that states that permanent residency is a residency for retirees at the consulate. Okay. So you could have 500K in your investment, no problem, but you will not get permanent unless you have the retirement age from your country and are receiving a pension, either from Social Security or from some other company. Okay. If you don't have 65 in the States, you cannot go for permanent unless you have a child that is Mexican that can give it to you. Okay.
Through the family.
Through
Okay.
the family unit, exactly, which is done here in Mexico. So what I do tell my clients is if you are pensioned, you are the age, you are a retiree, and you are plus 65, no problem, we can check. It is a bigger amount because it has happened where the person is retired, is retirement age, but does not get to the funds that are needed. So they also have to go through temporary.
So it's not enough to just be retired and have a letter. You have to still prove financial solvency.
Of course, yeah. Some people, and this is important for my clients to know, you always hear things around, oh, but this person got residency and they didn't have to prove anything. Maybe they had a child that was permanent in Mexico, that was Mexican. And you can also do that process at the consulate. It's easier to do it here, but you can also do it there. If you had a child that was, for example, let's say you guys have your parents, you want to ask for their permanent residency, you can either do it here or send your documents to the consulate and they apply there. You don't need financial solvency because you have family unit.
Right.
But if you don't have that family unit, you have to prove the solvency, even if you are retired.
Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah, I think that was a really important. I'm glad you brought that up because we have heard from other people, and like you mentioned, you've heard it too, that all you have to do is be retired. You don't have to have any money at all, nothing in the bank, no form of income, just be retired. And Mexico's going to say, come on over. That's not the case.
And if you think about it, these are people that are moving to a country. And why does Mexico want them? To be honest, here, taking away that it's a benefit for them, you're bringing money into Mexico.
Yes.
You don't have a solvency.
Why would they ever want you? Absolutely.
I mean, this is just being honest, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of retirees, especially now in Mexico, a lot of people that need the support, right? So if you're gonna move, please use the money here. That's what immigration's telling you. Please use your money here, retire here, buy a house here, no problem. But you do need to prove that. Same as temporary, right? You're moving there. How are you gonna support yourself?
Right.
That's why I do suggest people, my clients, if you want to do it on your own, go ahead. Just please get legal advice first, because it has happened to us where even at the consulates, the agents are not abiding by the law.
Right.
And it happens a lot. For example, another way of gaining the residency is if you have a property here in Mexico that goes up a certain value. So that's a way that also people get residency. But when they go with their title, they're like, oh no, where's your solvency? And that's not needed. But because they say, oh, really? I need my solvency? They don't have that legal advice. They don't have that advice from someone to help them and say, no, fight it, because that is in the law that you can get it. So yeah, like many times they tell you things like that, but turns out, no, it's not like that.
Wow, thank you so much for bringing that up. And that's why your company is so valuable because, I mean, you know this stuff. You know when to fight something, you know what's actually in the law, what's just them kind of like maybe being picky about something. That's
Yeah.
really, really valuable. I had no idea that if you bought a property and it appreciated a certain amount, you can become a resident like that. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Very cool.
If you can get the residency now without waiting for the house, without waiting, just get it now, because that's a main part of being able to stay in Mexico for a long time and not worry about the visa runs, or just have it, have it already.
Right.
And then that's for life. You can just stay permanent for life. No matter if you buy or not, you still have benefits having that.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay, so now we talked about temporary residency, permanent residency. Let's talk about citizenship. Do you help people get citizenship, or how are the requirements different? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, of course. So we do help people get citizenship. This is done in an office that is apart from immigration. Pretty much, we could say that it's the boss of the immigration office, which is the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. There are in every state, I believe, an office where you can get this done. It's preferable that you do it where you're living at the moment. How do I get to citizenship after? I first want to say, you don't really have to. I have a lot of clients that, even family members that have had the permanent for years, and you could have that all your life. no problem. You still have great benefits. Now, what are the two main differences between being a permanent and being a Mexican? The two only differences are, one, with the citizenship, you can vote if people are interested in voting. And the second one is you can buy a property directly without doing it through a trust or a company on restricted zone. So for some people, they say, you know what, I don't care just paying my yearly fees from the bank. It's fine. I don't care about it. Maybe you don't need to go to citizenship, but maybe you do see a benefit and you want to vote and you want to say, I want to be here a Mexican, and you can go for it. Now, the rules are you have to have residency at least 5 years before you apply. So, for example, doing a little exercise, let's say that we get the residency today and it's 2023. You would do 24, 25, 26, around 2027, which you will already have your permanent, because again, it's 4 years temporary, one, then you move to permanent. So 1 year after you get permanent, you would be able to apply.
Okay.
So it's having 5 years. Again, this depends how you got your residency. Now I'm talking just general, that you got your residency through financial solvency at the consulate. If you got it through marriage, through sons, that's different, okay? But pretty much you can apply. The important thing is that when you apply, the 2 years back, so in this case, if it's 27, be 27 and 26, in those 2 years, you shouldn't have left Mexico for more than the total of 6 months. So let's say that 2026 starts and you say, I want to apply the end of 2027. So I'm going to leave now to the States. I'm leaving for a month. Okay, I have 5 months left. Then I'm leaving again. Okay, I'm leaving for 2 weeks. So in those 2 years, you shouldn't have left more than 6 months to be able to apply. It's not renewable, like every time you go, it's no more than 6 months. No, it's in total.
Total.
Those 2 years.
And how is that? You may not know, or maybe you do, but I'm just curious. How is that tracked? Is that tracked through immigration every time you enter and leave Mexico? Maybe your passport would show it or something along those lines?
Yeah, so pretty much your passport will show the stamps
Ah,
and it's good that you have a record, because that will give you a little bit more control, not only when you apply for the citizenship, but also when you know that you haven't left more than 6 months, right? You have a control. Normally, you have the stamps as well in your passport that show out, in, out, in. Specifically more if you do airplane, because when you do land, sometimes that can be a little bit weird, as you
right.
might know. But with airplane, it's a lot easier.
Okay.
But what we've seen lately is that the SRE, which is the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, has asked the clients to get from immigration a letter that states their ins and outs. Why? Because immigration keeps a record of each one of their ins and outs. So in Spanish, it's called constancia de flujos migratorios. So kind of like a certificate of your ins and outs in Mexico.
Okay.
Pretty much speaking, it's not a requirement to get it if you know your ins and outs. But what we've seen is that they want you to get it. So what we do for our clients is, you know what, let's not get into fights with them. Let's just get that and provide that to them, and that will be easier.
Okay.
So we get that at immigration, we help them get it, and then we can go and apply for the at the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. So pretty much the process can take up to 8 months. It is a lengthy process because it goes to Mexico City. Everything is revised, but it's worth it if you really want to get out of the trust or vote, and if you want to become a Mexican.
Gotcha.
What are some reasons why it may not be good to get Mexican citizenship?
I would say one of the main ones would be when you become Mexican, you have two nationalities now. So maybe you have the States and Mexican. So if there's any legal problem, you would not be able to call the States and say, hey, I need help, because you are considered a Mexican when you enter Mexico. And also, some of my clients don't like doing the process because you do have to know Spanish. At least comprehension because you're going to read something and do a test and a history test. So, I mean, I'm not saying, I think that if you move somewhere, it would be nice that you kind of learn the language. It would be nice, right?
Right.
But I mean, some clients don't want to go through the hassle. I would only see those two things as cons, really.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, those are excellent,
In,
excellent thoughts.
in your opinion, do you think it's fine if for most people if they just want to stay permanent, they don't want to get citizenship?
Yeah, I would say yes. In general, if you don't want to vote, like I said, and you don't mind having your house in a trust, then I would say don't do the process.
Yeah, I think it was so valuable what you brought out about how you have two nationalities once you do get it. So if you
Mhm.
do need help from, for example, the United States, but you're also now a Mexican national,
Yeah.
legally, the US might be like, well, you're Mexican, you know?
Exactly. And some people sometimes, even for healthcare reasons, I mean, it depends your home country. People ask me, is it okay if I have two nationalities? For Mexico, it's fine. We don't care. But maybe your home country cares.
Right,
Maybe your home country says, I will not give you health insurance. Like you would have to check with a lawyer back home, make sure that everything's okay in that side. But for Mexico, it's fine.
right. I've actually heard that people were denied health care when they came to Mexico. So very important to figure that out on your end with a lawyer from the country that you're kind of depending on for your health care or whatever that might be.
Now, sometimes there has been occasions where maybe there's not that they don't come in with their residency, but maybe there's a confusion and the officer writes down tourist.
Right.
That can be solved sometimes. But
Okay.
again, that's why I tell my clients not only come in with your residency, but go if you can to the Mexican line and literally flash your card like it's your life. Like,
Right.
don't wait for them to say, give me your residency because they won't. They
Right.
won't do that.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you're complying with your obligations. So you show your card first and make sure that you are not giving any days or whatever, just RT, which means temporary resident. So making sure of those things can help you not lose the residency and then have to start the process all over again. Now, in regards to it being revoked, normally that can happen if you commit crimes, felonies here in Mexico. They're big and you're convicted, they might revoke it. And for nationality, it happens if, for example, you do contact your country for help and you try to say, okay, I am a US national, so I need help, and you're here, then you could lose it as well.
Thank you so much. That's so valuable. And I just want to say to the viewers, in case you haven't seen my scare about my temporary residency being revoked or being lost, check out the video. I'll link it in the end. Now, from what I understand from the research that I did, I'm okay. They wrote days in my passport, but at the same time, they wrote RT. Um, now, if for some reason mine was revoked, if Brittany's wasn't, could I get mine through her?
Yes. I mean, you have a great thing going on for you, which is that, right? You have a close family member married to you, which has a residency. So if that happened to you, just by proving that you would lose it if there was a problem, but just by proving the marriage, with an apostilled marriage certificate, you would be able to get it again. Of course, you would have to restart because that's how it is when you lose it. But what I would also suggest to the viewers, because it again, it's not 100% you lose it. You might lose it, right? We don't want to go through that might. But what is good is that if you can go to immigration as soon as possible, explain to the agents, this is what happened.
And Mariana, did you have anything that you wanted to mention before we maybe signed off?
No, I want to say thank you. And I hope that we can do this again as well. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to contact us. We have a webpage, which is, well, it's maxlifeyucatan.com.mx. And we also have our email. Maybe we could put it down below, but pretty much we work from Monday to Friday. If you have any question, feel free to text us through WhatsApp or send us an email, and we would love to help you out. And if you also want to follow us on Instagram, the name is Max Live Yucatan, and also on Facebook. So any question, any comment, we're open to hear about you.
Awesome. Mariana, thank you so much for all of your time, all of your expertise and your experience. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you. Take care.